Chapter 1148. The break week is over, the Japanese holiday break week, but there's also another break next week. This one is gonna be one of Oda's regular breaks, but that's fine, we can deal with that. There's also no anime episode this weekend, but again, that's completely okay because the last two episodes have been unbelievably good, and in the next episode, a certain backstory will begin, so we need time to mentally prepare for that. So everything's just going well for One Piece right now. There's even news that some very big things will be revealed about the One Piece live action season 2 at the end of the month. And finally there's this chapter which was exactly what I was expecting and hoping for. The cover story first, this time Yamato is finally leaving Udon after all of that and off to Hakumai to see Kawamatsu and give him a casa hat which was made by Tama. So he's showing up earlier than I was thinking Ringo, but nevertheless it will be good to see him again, and that will leave Kiku as the last remaining member of the Scabbards to meet up with Yamato. I'm not sure if there's any significance to her being the final one or if her appearance will be pretty much the same as everyone else's. Also, after being absent from the last cover page, Ulti and Page 1 are still here. They are following Yamato, I guess in the same way the original samurai did with Oden way back in the day. I think the next cover page will probably be Ulti and Page 1 Ulti especially sucking up to Yamato as they make their way to Hakumai. She's even bowing as they depart, so that whole who's who situation really reset her brain chemistry. So it's looking very certain that they will become Yamato's own Scabbards. They've dressed themselves up as well, so the conversation there will be how everyone else will react to this. Because for starters, is Yamato gonna test them or just give in to their advances and take them in? The Tama confrontation won't be happening because it looks like Tama's gonna stick around in Udon for a while. Maybe she will end up getting that ninja training from Raizo himself. But back to the dinosaur siblings, there's still the rest of the country to convince because it's not like these two were minor beast pirates. They were very high up in the hierarchy, so how would the other samurai react to Yamato strolling back into the flower capital with two people they fought against with their lives on the line? I am 100% down for Ulti and Page 1 turning face, joining our side, but the path to get there is still very bumpy. Seems like everyone in Udon was okay with them, maybe a mixture of pity as well because of what they just went through, but we'll see. The chapter begins with Gunko. She directs one of the kids, Ronya, who was the uber optimistic positive one, towards the branch's edge and threatens to kill her if the giants do not cooperate. So this is the natural follow-up to the threat that Summers gave from the last chapter where he said if the giants didn't obey then they would kill the kids one by one. So it's kind of funny how the first kid chosen to threaten the others with is the one who's always looking on the bright side, a bright side that I don't think anyone else can see apart from her right now. In Before, she has an immensely tragic backstory herself with a really dark reason as to why she's so uplifting all the time, and that's why she was chosen to be the first child by Oda to be on the metaphorical chopping block. She's standing right on the edge of the arrow and she finally starts showing some kind of fear when she looks down. But one more thing, I didn't go into it last chapter, but with each kid having their own distinct personality, the one I'm most intrigued by is Johanna, the little girl with the dark horns. So she's another example of the ancient giant blood still present in the giant's veins, but more interestingly she says that the other kids are lucky that they actually have parents, and she doesn't seem to care at all that they are currently being kidnapped. So all of these kids I'd assume are around the same age as Colin, so around 20, and we know Loki killed Harald 14 years ago, so I'm thinking her parents were killed during that incident, therefore making her an orphan. And her demeanor similarly to Ronya herself, how that could just be how they are, that's just their personality. It just seems like something that's worth keeping an eye on. We have some giants pleading just like Ange did, and although I did talk down on her for saying so much last chapter, in her defense I'll say it's not that bad that she said what she said, because, and it's the same with the giants here, it's because if the Holy Knights have already decided to burn it down, you might as well say whatever to try and stop them, even if it's not gonna work. And they talk about the value of the books, that some are thousands of years old, like the Harley texts I assume they're referencing there. I don't think the Holy Knights or the world government in general are even aware of the Harley text. I don't think that they ever will, although it would be a very cool scene because how would they react to a prophecy prophesizing their downfall? So it's kind of turning into a debate over what the right choice is. Is the entire country's history, culture, legacy more important than the children's lives? To me, it's an obvious answer, save the kids, but at the same time, how important is is the knowledge in the library for determining the future of this world? Are the kids' lives worth all of that? You know, how vital is that information? Are those books for liberating the world? And on top of that, how strongly do some of the giants believe in those prophecies? How much do their individual interpretations of the texts and nika play a role in forming their opinion in this scenario, in determining which is the right choice? There's a lot more that would go into making a decision like this than you'd think on face value. We see the moment Robin decided to make a move, and while she goes to take on Somers, Chopper is still in Saul's beard, so the logical next step would be for him to take care of Saul, now that the fighting has moved elsewhere. The other Straw Hats are still tied up, Nami making her voice heard. The thing about Nami is that she isn't afraid to speak her mind, or better yet, it's not that she isn't afraid to speak her mind, but that she always speaks her mind even if she's afraid. Like every time she stood up to Ulti in Wano when she shouted back at Kaido after he proclaimed Luffy's death. And of course, whenever kids are involved, you can count on her to speak the truth. Also, Brook, Gunko's attacks surely did not cause enough damage for him to be bandaged up like that. So he's basically become luggage at this point. He's ready to be transported to Marijois and being thoroughly wrapped up from head to toe, because he's now a precious asset that cannot be damaged in any way unless Gunko herself is the one inflicting the damage. The giants are now properly getting their act together. Ripley's gonna join in, as you would have expected given her son's life is on the line. Dory and Broggy strategizing as well. Their crew is going to split up into two groups to be of as much help as they can. The other giants in the village are rising up as well, but on top of that, if you look at the buildings in the background, the giants from the craftsman village are getting on their ships to join the battle, and I'd say the huntsman village may be doing the same thing. And it's kind of making me feel pumped up, because the giants, you know, they're supposed to be this ultimate fighting force, but when we arrived on the island, it was explicitly stated by many people many times, these guys aren't the same giants that the whole world was afraid of way back when, and they are all now rallying to take on the Holy Knights and save the kids. The giants that were known throughout the world are now coming out of the woodworks. They're pushing aside Harold's philosophy, at least for the time being, and I'm here for it. It's got me excited. And now to the payoff, or the first part of the payoff to last chapter's cliffhanger, Robin joining the fight. She shows up, strikes Somers' face first, and then immediately goes to break his neck. He of course fixes himself up from having his neck broken because of the regeneration, but she grabs a hold of him and jumps off of the branch with him. He's talking about her falling in love with him. They are both definitely falling, so I'll give him that. And he brings up the range of his powers. From his words, it sounds like even after the long fall, he can still utilize the invisible thorns that are wrapped around each one of the kids. So that seems like something that will come into play later on, where he does end up too far out to use his abilities effectively. So I just have to say, his whole aesthetic, his character, his design, the thorns, the rose, it all just fits together really well, that motif of feelings. Anyway, when Robin gets serious, it's a long day for whoever's on the other side, even if they far outrank her in terms of power. And even though she is no match for him in a one-on-one fight, her going through all of this effort to try and make a difference, to try and slow him down, was a very good read. He goes to attack her and creates the thorns directly from his own body. No vine is necessary, like a porcupine. When it's revealed, he's been fighting a clone the entire time, while the real Robin is on the go to rescue the other Straw Hats, so she is getting things done. She is simultaneously trying to handle two major situations right now. And I know it's a clone, but even in freefall and stabbed through, Robin remains the definition of grace and elegance. Nami understands. I was anticipating some Robin focus in this arc, but that was in terms of lore, like uncovering some more secrets about the past. But add all of the stuff with Saul, the reunion, and her fighting right now. At the moment, this is just as much her arc as it is any of the other Straw Hats, although I'm sure they will each also get their time to shine eventually. She's unable to remove the arrow restraint, and Jinbei suggests Gunko must be taken out directly. I don't think that means she needs to be defeated, because then these guys will miss the whole fight and that will make them look very bad. Maybe they just need to take her attention away from them, force her to release that arrow because she has to focus on fighting, so she won't be able to maintain the restraints. And Somers is just hanging out literally by the thorn vine. Can't tell whether it's coming from his waist or his never mind. His arms and legs are completely free here, so how did he activate it? Did he have to like thrust mid-air to produce enough velocity to shoot it up? But this does show the range of his devil fruit, because if he can reach high enough to attach to the branch, then he should still be close enough to be able to maintain the thorn vines around the kids. Back to Yarl now, who now has the weight of the entire country resting on his shoulders, since Summers forced the final decision on him. And there was a small part of me that thought, if you remember how there was the theory that he may be working behind the scenes with his own agenda, because he was also present during the whole Loki Harald situation, well, that came to mind, and it was a possibility for me, and this choice he was given seems like a pretty good cover-up for his own plans if that were the case. But now I'm sure that it's not, because of what happens next. While Summers has been counting down the seconds until they drop Ronya, they force her to speak through the snail to try and push the giants to their breaking point by hearing their kids' voices. And she is speaking far beyond her years here, because although she is trembling and she is crying, she's basically talking about the very debate being discussed by the other giants. She's weighing up her own life against the importance of the school and library. You know, I was talking about how the library contains all of that knowledge, but the school as well is like a major symbol in this country now. A symbol to show how they've been trying to change themselves. It's the legacy of their former king, who may or may not be a traitor, but that's not important right now. She tells them to save the buildings instead of her. She is really telling them that it's okay if she falls, if that allows them to not need to burn anything down and save the rest of the kids. Although at the same time, when I say her words are very mature, I can also see how her words are driven by a childlike innocence, since she speaks on her love for the school and her friends and how you shouldn't make people feel sad. She's talking about how losing the school and library would make people feel sad. So simply put, her reasoning for all of this isn't anything grand at all. It's just that she doesn't want to make anyone feel upset. For me, it's reminded me of how, when discussing the story, this whole story, you can talk about the deeper, more mature themes that run through the entire narrative, but at the same time the messaging can be so purposefully simple and easy to understand, because really it's those simple things, those liberties in life that we take for granted, that we need to be reminded of their meaning and value. She mentions the school and her friends, and unfortunately I know this isn't the same for everyone, but think about your friends and your family. You love them and would do so much for them, but we see them all the time, so normally you wouldn't think about that. Going to school, as much as some people say they hated it, think about how many memories you would have made there at that time. What I would give to start school again, because again of how much simpler it was back in those days. That's what I'm taking for this, and she says it as well herself. We are so lucky. How lucky am I to even be able to make this video? Just, yeah, you get my point. I think I went a little deeper than I was expecting, but that's fine. It's this story that's helping bring out those thoughts from my head. It's making me think. Not a single person can blame Jarl for choosing to save the kids by deciding to have the school and library burnt to the ground. Robin and even Saul shedding tears because that library means more to them than anyone else on the face of the planet. And I wonder if Biblo the owl is gonna do anything, like if they get too close to the library or really close to setting it on fire, will he step in to do something? Maybe fight himself? So with that, I'm gonna put the Jarl traitor theory, or whatever hidden agenda theory, to bed. Although we still have no idea about what happened back then 14 years ago, my heartstrings have been tugged, so he is in the clear. Now to the school where Ange is. Jarl told her to do it, and obviously Killingham is also there with her, although we don't see him, so he'll be making sure that she gets the job done, as long as there are no interruptions, which of course there will be. Someone is gonna show up to fight him eventually. I think it will be Dory and Broggy and the rest of their crew once they've dealt with the giant nightmare wives, that is. They said they would split into two groups. The group who has to fight the wives will think they were handed the short end of the stick. Maybe they go after Killingham once they find out he is the one behind the manifestations, and they do so in an effort to get rid of the wives. They'll be thinking that he's the easier fight in this scenario. I do think though that there is a strong chance the school will get burned to the ground because it's surely guaranteed the library filled with all of that knowledge will survive. Otherwise, why make the point that the giant saved them from Ohara? Maybe the school is burned, and before they can burn the library, that's when the giant warrior pirates step in to intervene just in time. Back to the main action, and Summers goes after the real Robin this time and is able to trap her, but before he can attack, we get the rest of the payoff from last chapter's cliffhanger, because in comes Scopper Gaban, who slashes one of Summers' hands clean off, leaving him with a genuine wound because he cannot heal it. So Gaban does seemingly know how to counteract the Holy Knight's immortality, their regeneration, and for the umpteenth time, this is surely something he learned on God Valley where he and the Holy Knights were present. He says it's been a long time, so that's the confirmation I've been looking for over the past few chapters. This is heading right in the direction I was wanting it to. Just like how Rayleigh came in and saved the day by being the first guy to counteract a Logia ability, Gaban's come in to save the day to be the first person to counteract the regeneration ability, and that's how you do it, by taking one of your enemy's hands. So question, is Gaban as strong as or stronger than current Zoro and Sanji? He's obviously one of the former wings of the former king of the pirates, so they'll both surpass him eventually, but at this moment in time, where would you place him? Personally, the same way I think Zoro and Sanji's strength are somewhat equivalent. I'd say that's the same with Gaban and Rayleigh as well, and I think those two old men are still just ahead of the other two. The last time someone was able to override the immortality, or at least Summers' immortality, was probably Gaban himself at the God Valley incident. And Summers, seeing him make this face here is so good because he's been so comically evil in a good way since he arrived that compare his face counting down while Ronya was breaking down 2 seconds away from falling to her death to this one here. That's the kind of comeuppance everyone loves to see. This face encapsulates his trauma from that day 38 years ago resurfacing now, and it's been triggered by him seeing Scopper Gaban. Cause on top of the hand removal, Gaban also slashes Summers' chest, and it's clear he uses Haki. I'll wait until the dust settles on this chapter before receiving confirmation on whether it's Conquerors or not. I don't think it is at this moment, although that doesn't matter because he is pissed. Remember how he was bragging about Colin's bravery before? I said it was because he'd seen it all already during his long life as a pirate, which is why he wasn't flustered by Colin's kidnapping, but now I'm thinking he put on a facade in that moment so he could put Ripley's mind at ease, because I'm looking at his face here, they still abducted his kid. So break next week, but we can deal with it, we can handle it. Next chapter is gonna be a banger. Gaban going all out this time against Summers. There's no giving up or surrendering like he did with Luffy and Zoro. This is a fight, and one that could honestly go in either direction, and I'm expecting us to stick here in the Sun World for the next few chapters, so it might be a minute before we see Loki, Luffy and the others in the underworld again, so that flashback is going to have to be postponed until this is sorted out. However, how about we get another flashback, this time for Gaban on God Valley. Another small look at the incident, maybe a few bits here and there about different things, but the main focus will be Gaban and Summers, maybe the other Holy Knights that were present there as well. And as for the present fight, I don't think Gaban is gonna die, but that also doesn't mean everything is gonna turn out in his favor either. So while we've had some action here and there, this is the first real major fight of the arc.